DSLRs and mirrorless cameras have become some of the most popular cameras used for video. This is mainly because of their great image performance, form factor, and price point. However, shooting video with a camera designed for stills is full of compromises. So in this video, we'll be going over why picking up a dedicated video camera may be a smart decision for you and how to do it. Before getting into the video, I'll be saying mirrorless, but when I say that I am including DSLRs as well. Let's take a look at the drawbacks that you may experience when shooting with a mirrorless camera. First off, they aren't designed to shoot video. You can first see and feel this when you pick one up. The ergonomics do not lend themselves to shooting moving image. They are for shooting stills, and will be great for that. They are more often than not much smaller than dedicated video cameras, which can be seen as a pro or a con. However, their lightweight nature means that footage will have much more shape to it than a heavier camera package. Though IBIS will help with this, which lots of them do feature, and cinema cameras may not. They are also a bit of a pain to get working nicely on the shoulder, whereas most video cameras will behave well in this configuration with a couple of accessories. Most mirrorless cameras will have a lack of buttons, which will make changing settings on the fly while shooting much slower and more cumbersome. If we compare the EOS R series to the C70 and the C300 Mark III, we can really see how much it lacks buttons to control key settings that you may need access to quickly while shooting, and this is common when comparing stills and video cameras. Video cameras also feature at least one dedicated record button, with some featuring more, which means you'll be able to roll easily no matter how you're operating the camera. The software that stills cameras are running for their menu will also have been designed primarily for stills, so navigation is different to a menu designed for video, and what tools you have at your disposal while shooting will be limited. This can be having restricted exposure and monitoring tools, as well as how the menu is actually laid out. Most mirrorless cameras will also have reduced levels of inputs and outputs when compared to a video camera. This is because they aren't designed to be part of a professional video workflow, where you may need more options, or because of their small form factor, which would be difficult with increased I/O options. More video-centric cameras will have a much larger range of I/O, and this can be stuff such as video outputs like HDMI or SDI, timecode or BNC ports, as well as power outputs and other connectivity options. What you need a camera to feature really depends on the kind of productions you work on. The batteries that most mirrorless or DSLR cameras use are often much smaller than dedicated video cameras. And this means that video runtimes will be much shorter with these systems, and you will also be limited to what accessories you can power from it, such as a monitor or wireless video system. It is possible to use an external power source with most mirrorless systems, but this can get tricky with mounting. Whereas with batteries such as the BPA used on the Canon C70 and the C300 Mark III, you can power the camera for much longer and even get third-party batteries that will allow you to power an external accessory via a DTAP output. For years now, recording limits have been a huge drawback for mirrorless and DSLR cameras, and so many cameras still have a 30-minute record limit, which for certain professional video applications, such as live events or long interviews, will be a big no-no. A professional video camera will not have this limit, and even some mirrorless cameras don't now as well. As recording video is a secondary feature, the quality of the included video format is often overlooked or lesser when compared to cameras with more of a video focus. This could be to do with the cooling, recording media limits, and general lack of processing. Smaller bitrate codecs are more than enough for online publication, and most productions' hybrid cameras are mainly used on, so it could also just be a design choice from the camera manufacturer. However, with more modern mirrorless cameras, we have seen improvements in this area massively. With all the negatives, there are a few positives that cameras designed for stills have. First off, they can take stills. Other than that, they are really compact, which makes them easy to carry and more inconspicuous than larger systems. It also means you can get them onto smaller gimbals easier too. I know plenty of owner ops that have a mirrorless camera that just lives on their gimbal. A lot of mirrorless cameras will also feature better weather sealing than most video cameras, and this is mainly because of cooling. The way around this for video cameras is to use a rain cover though. They can also obviously be used for stills duty in case the need ever arises. Most mirrorless cameras will also feature an EVF, which for some will be a preferred way of shooting. Grabbing an EVF and using it with a more video-centric camera will cost a decent chunk, as a good EVF such as the Zacuto Gratical Eye will set you back upwards of £1,500. But the systems inside of mirrorless cameras still have the edge. R3 and the R5 feature some of the best autofocus in any camera, but Canon's video cameras are lacking behind slightly. I'm really hoping that Canon include this new system in their next Cinema EOS camera. There are so many benefits of cameras that have been designed for video over stills. And we won't cover every little detail, as that would make the video far longer than it needs to be, so we'll only be focusing on the key differences and benefits. When comparing the Canon stills cameras and video cameras, you can immediately tell which body has been designed to shoot video and which of stills. The way your camera looks can actually be quite important. Client perception when you walk onto a job is pretty crucial, and a larger video camera will ultimately give off the impression that it's a more professional camera than a small mirrorless camera will. The overall ergonomics are also far better for shooting video. This can be from the addition of grips, where you can control the camera as with the C300 Mark III, better weight distribution, more configurable monitoring position, shoulder mounting possibilities, or included top handles, which most video cameras will come with. As a whole, these cameras are just much nicer to rig than stills cameras. They require fewer parts and accessories to get to the same point, and this means that it'll be more reliable when you pull it out of a bag on a job, as there'll be less bolted onto it that could go wrong. With improved ergonomics designed for video acquisition commonly comes an improvement in mounting points for third-party accessories. These are commonly 1/4 inch or 3/8 threads on the body, which will allow you to use support accessories to mount other accessories you may need, such as a wireless video external monitor or recorder. This will be much harder with a smaller camera, which mirrorless systems usually are, as it limits the positions where you can mount things and how it all kind of comes together. Cooling the internals of a video camera is really important. As with anything process heavy, heat management is a critical thing to think about during the development of a product. Some of the most popular cinema cameras on the market use some massive heat sinks to make sure everything internally is cooled adequately for optimum operation and performance. This means that most video cameras will have some form of active fan cooling, whereas stills will mainly be passively cooled using just a heatsink and the body. This makes video cameras much better for longer recording sessions, reliability, and overall performance. A lot of video cameras will feature an internal ND system, which is incredibly handy to have. Having this instead of using an adapter with an ND built in or putting an ND filter in front of your lens somehow will make using it much faster and easier while shooting in varied light conditions and we're using different lenses. We mentioned the benefits of video cameras having larger and better batteries earlier, but another feature that is often overlooked is a nice secure power input. Most video cameras will have a nice solid power input connector, which will allow you to run a cable directly into it, whether that's from a larger block style battery or directly from a wall outlet. Normally, sensors that have been designed for video acquisition will be more tailored towards that, and as such will feature specific design choices tailored towards capturing motion over still frames. This can be a focus on increased sensor readout speed, which will result in less rolling shutter artifacts, or it could be a reduced resolution to focus on pixel size instead of more of them. This increased photosight size will more often than not allow for greater sensitivity and increased dynamic range, which will be more important to most than massive recording resolutions or large resolutions for stills. Some mirrorless cameras may feature an OLPF, but they are far more common on video camera systems. An OLPF, also known as an anti-aliasing filter, is used on a lot of high-end cinema cameras to counter moire, which is an artifact that most professional filmmakers will strive to not have in their footage. More often than not, stills cameras will have limited video formats and codecs versus dedicated video cameras, though they have come a long way over the past few years. This can be a mix of the actual compression method, container data rates, as well as bit depth and color subsampling. DCI formats are also normally reserved for cameras made specifically for video too, though this isn't always the case. Audio is another area that is handled much better with dedicated video cameras, as audio is often an afterthought when it comes to still cameras. First off, you will normally have better audio inputs such as the mini XLRs on the C70 and full-size XLRs on the C300 Mark III. This will allow you to use more professional audio sources as well as multiple different sources, which will be great for a huge range of productions. These will be accompanied by physical audio controls on the body, which will be much faster and easier to get access to and control than having to control your audio in the menu system of some cameras. The quality of the preamps inside of these cameras are also much better than those found in stills cameras, so the quality of your audio will be far better than using a stills camera audio input. Video cameras will have very different menu systems than stills cameras and will feature a massive range of added settings around shooting better video. This can be settings such as changing from shutter speed to angle, which will make changing between frame rates easy, choosing between ISO or dB or gain, a range of monitoring functions and exposure functions such as false color, which we love to use. LUTs are commonly used across a range of productions, and being able to load in and use LUTs is a common feature on most video-centric cameras. This is a really important feature if a camera is going to sit in a more cinema-orientated workflow. Most video cameras will also feature more comprehensive options, colour profiles and gammas. This is normally due to them having different standards than what are used for stills and different post-production pipeline requirements. A good example for this is Canon's R series of cameras featuring C-Log 3, whereas their larger cameras like the C300 feature C-Log 2. And this is because C-Log 2 requires more time to get the most out of it in post, and has been designed for sensors that can capture larger amounts of dynamic range, which video cameras normally do over stills. What base frame rates you can record is also another thing that video cameras will do slightly better. This can be capturing true 23.98 or 24 frames per second for cinema use, or switching between interlaced progressive if you need to as well. So, you're thinking about grabbing a dedicated video camera. Well, there are so many different cameras available on the market, but let's take a look at 3 different options currently, all from Canon. The XF605, the C70 and the C300 Mark III. We've shot, tested and explored all 3 of these cameras and have put a playlist in the description below where you can watch all of our content around them. However, each camera does have its pros and cons, which we'll talk about now quickly. The C70 is a logical next step for users coming from mirrorless and DSLR cameras. It features a form factor that looks to improve the ergonomics of a stills camera, but not increase the size or deviate too much from the original physical design of a mirrorless camera. This means users of stills cameras will feel somewhat at home holding the C70. It also means you can put the C70 onto lighter weight support systems like smaller gimbals and tripods, as well as shoot handheld with a much more compact setup. It features the same fantastic Super 35 DJO sensor as the C300 Mark III, which means that image quality is superb. Though its internal video formats aren't quite up to the same level as the C300 Mark III, this may not be a massive issue for the C70's target market though. The C70 was also Canon's first cinema EOS camera to feature an RF mount, which means you'll be able to use any of their fantastic new RF mount lenses, as well as a range of adapters for a massive range of existing lenses. This includes Canon's own focal reducer, which allows you to achieve full frame field of views, which is awesome. We've made a couple of videos around this adapter, so if you want to learn more about that, links are in the description below. The C300 Mark III is the C70's slightly more professional and better built older brother. As we said, it features the same sensor as the C70, but has a few key improvements. The first being its body design. It's a much larger and more familiar Cinema EOS series style form factor, which means it's fantastic to use across a range of different configurations, whether that's on the shoulder, handheld or on sticks. It also features a much more comprehensive set of inputs and outputs than the C70 does, such as SDI and full-size XLR inputs, and it also has a modular design, which means the camera can be configured for a range of different production needs. The C300 also offers the ability to record cinema raw light internally if you really want to get the most out of that fantastic sensor. Though you can also shoot XFABC at a higher bitrate than what is possible with the C70. So all in all, the C300 Mark III is a step up from the C70 and will be a serious workhorse for any filmmaker wanting a versatile cinema camera that will perform great on a huge range of productions. Both the C70 and the C300 Mark III are Netflix approved, which could be a factor for you. Currently, there aren't that many stills cameras that are on this approved list for a reason. The XF605 is a great option if you are wanting a more traditional camcorder experience. This may be a bit of a shock coming from a stills camera, but image quality is still really good here. Though depth of field at wider angles will be more of a challenge to achieve than with the larger sensors in the C70, C300 and most stills cameras. The 605 will be great for people wanting a pull out of the bag and get shooting experience, with minimal bolt-on accessories and all of the creature comforts you would expect from a fixed lens camcorder. It'd be great for run and gun filmmakers wanting something reliable that can just run and record for ages. And also seeing it being great for news gathering, studio and live productions, as it features a range of functions that will fit straight into their workflow, has great audio input options, professional connections and industry standard recording formats. We hope this video has helped explain the key differences between cameras designed for photography and video. What camera is best for you will completely depend on what you require and what's most important to you. If you want some more tailored advice on what camera system would be best for you, you can get in contact with us for other details in the video description below, or feel free to ask us any more questions in the comments below and I will respond with my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe for all future content. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.